I came from being a plumber's assistant, making $6 an hour, working 30, 40 hours a week, getting my paycheck on Friday, to now, here's some leads, go get them. Control your schedule. You're self-employed now. I struggled with that, and I would go out and I would sell a lot. I would make a couple $1,000s in a week, and then I would chill out.
Yep.
And I would let my bank account dictate my activity level. And when I started realizing that, well, now I got someone else to take care of outside of myself, I have a payroll to make, it kind of backs you in a healthy way. It backs you into a corner to understand that, okay, I just got to keep being disciplined here, and I got to keep creating habits along the way. And I was forced to do it. Sometimes you got to get a little uncomfortable, for you to fight out of it and learn those habits. And that's what I did.
Hello and welcome. This is Brian Delaney with Unlock Potential, where we get together with top experts in their field who have simple, profound advice to help you and I live better lives, to be able to be more fit to serve the people around us and answer that question, the question that nags within all of us: how good can I be and how great can I make it for people around me? All right, welcome back everybody to Unlock Potential. I'm here with my guest today, Casey Watkins, owner and CEO of Quility, as well as Symmetry Financial Group, as well as World Adventure. Incredible wisdom comes from this gentleman, and I hope his simple, profound advice impacts you in the same way it's impacted me. So let's get it started, Casey.
Thank you,
Welcome
buddy.
to the show. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I love what you've done with the place.
Thanks. Yeah, it's a training room that looks like a studio. It's awesome.
It's awesome. And,
it's all.
You've had a couple of my good friends on too as guests. So when you invited me, I was like, hey, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cicely and Corey.
Yeah.
Great episodes, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate that. And your opinion means so much, and the circles that we've gotten to travel in together and the things we've gotten to do. We'll talk more about that later. But just the incredible people we have around us. I wanted to bring you on and just get some of your wisdom from over the years, your experience, just because I know the impact that you've had on me in the financial services industry, in your own life, get to kind of see more than typically people get to see because of the friendship we've built, and really admire you and what you've done and how you've built your life and how you build up the people around you. So I really want to...
Very mutual.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. So I want to dig right into it and give people some gold on the front end.
Well, let's hope so.
I know it's there. We just got to open the faucet. Talk about, I know I've learned so many practical things from you, so much mindset work, so many frameworks for success, as well as just thinking and acting positively. Talk about some of those mindsets, frameworks, tools that you found to be essential so far in your success journey.
Man, that's a lot. There's a lot in there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I've always just tried to, a lot of the success that I've had, I feel like the first thing was I was observant. I observed people, I observed an industry in the insurance world that seemed to be pretty lucrative, seemed to allow people to control their schedule, kind of all the things I was looking for. I grew up in a way where there wasn't a lot of emphasis on, the traditional kind of way of coming up, where you go to school and you get good grades, hoping to get into a good college to get a good job. Both my parents were more entrepreneurial. And so I was just observant, and I just saw a little bit of a different way of doing things. And when I was about 18, 19 years old now, I had a good friend that was in the insurance business, and he has insurance license and seemed to be doing pretty well, controlled his schedule. At the time, I was a plumber's assistant. Yep. Because I had dropped out of high school going into the 11th grade, and decided to, the only thing I could do at that point was work for a plumber, try to learn a trade, something like that. And so I did that for a couple of years, and then got my insurance license. I took that leap. 40 hours of studying, and I appreciated that ability to kind of control my schedule. And, that was a big thing for me. It was just kind of being observant, understanding what I wanted, and understanding that time was an important component for me. It wasn't just about making money. It was about making as much money as I could in as little amount of time as I could. And I was just lucky enough and fortunate enough to find the insurance business. So I think being observant for me was pretty crucial. And then the second thing was just being authentic to myself, because I saw people all around me from the very beginning of this thing. These crazy salespeople had, super A-type personalities, and I had to fight this urge to try to be like everything I was seeing, and just understanding that this is a business, much like any business that you jump into, where attraction matters, like the law of attraction. And especially in the business that we're in, it's about not only being a person that a client can relate with as you're helping them with insurance, but also if you're starting to build an agency, which is what we have done with our company, is trying to attract people to you. And so just authenticity, and learning over the years that I as much as I like what you do and truly respect, Brian, how you're able to, read a book like this one here, Principles, and somehow retain a lot of it and be able to spit it out on kids. Like, it's so amazing to me, but I don't have that ability. And so understanding that is your authentic self. I am different. I have to understand what is it about me that I can lean into and be authentic with, because that's really, I think that's what attracts me to you. And that's what attracts me to other people, is just authenticity. And that's the good news for anyone listening, is you just have to understand who you are and lean into that. And man, the world unlocks when you do that.
It's a really incredible thing, because we talk about this all the time, that your business doesn't need more from you, or your relationships, they don't need more from you. They need more of you.
Yes.
You showing up. And it's so easy to get distracted from actually building your personality and just start building that persona.
Absolutely.
And in sales, in all those places, the persona is we were just talking about this before, the Ferragamo belt, the Rolex watch, all these outward signs of success that typically you start to scratch a little bit beneath the surface and you don't really find much. It's more like a gold plating rather than solid gold.
That's right.
And so how do you feel like, being somebody who, didn't finish high school, started in your career early, how did you not fall into the traps of like going toward that crowd, going toward the crowd of people who are willing to say anything to get what they wanted, or to take value from people in order to get what they wanted, but rather really kind of know that you have to strike your own way while using these success principles?
I think it goes back to being observant, and paying attention, and understanding what it is that, I talk about this sometimes, that I feel like I've had so many positive role models in my life that I really needed. I needed mentors. I needed those role models, and especially because I didn't have a formal education. That was my education, was observing who are the people that have what I want, and let's pay attention to what they're doing. And when you get into sales, and whether it's real estate or car sales or insurance, it doesn't matter what you're selling. Generally, you'll find your fair share of people that have gotten themselves in the rat race, chasing the Ferragamo belts and chasing the Ferraris and chasing all of those things. And myself and my business partner, Brandon, we met at a company, one of the first companies we worked for in the insurance business, where we started to see that take place in the culture. And again, that is not out of the norm for many sales cultures out there. And we saw the negative effects of that. Like you said, we saw a lot of people that thought that was going to lead to more joy and more happiness, but what it really led to was debt, or just thinking that those things were going to actually bring them a level of joy and happiness. And so we had some really good negative role models. We had some really good examples of like, this is what we don't want. We know where that leads. And it leads into the rat race. And so that was such an important component for us when we started Quility and Symmetry was let's do it different. Let's keep the focus on the right things. And that may include a Ferrari. It may include the Ferragamo belt if that's what you want and that's what drives you. There's nothing wrong with having those things as motivation. I am driven, and I've always been driven by material things. A lot of times they are more memories. We've been on some amazing trips together. Those are the things I generally like to invest in. But I'm also a car guy, and so I'm not going to do that at the expense of, my business. I don't want to get myself into so much debt to where now that becomes the driving force. It's you call it the golden handcuffs, right? Man, that's just no way to live. And we've seen too much of that in this industry and too many other sales worlds where it's just like, that's the whole thing. And it's just like, I don't know. That's not for us.
Yeah. And I remember having that experience with you because I had just come out of one of those companies.
Yeah.
I was fresh in the insurance business and I had seen a lot of that culture. And a lot of that culture was, I make six figures. And they don't know six figures from stick figures. Like they don't know, they don't know that. And you start to scratch and you're finding out that what they're attracting to isn't real.
Yep.
And so the longer people stay there, the more that they see it.
Yeah.
And that's just the way that truth works in general. And when I came to you, I was like just about outside of the insurance industry. And I said, is this a good business? Is this a good industry? And I have never forgotten the words you said. This is not a good business or a bad business. This isn't a good business or a bad industry. It's whatever you make it.
Yeah.
And for me, that was a moment I decided to come to this company and that it was safe for me to come here and win. Because I knew that you weren't trying to put something over on me. I knew you were just trying to get me to see what you saw. And if you would have asked me when I was a young man if I was going to be in this industry, I would have never said yes. And in fact, taken that as a bit of an insult. Yeah. Right. But now we can't imagine ourselves any place differently because it's become a launching pad for both of us for multiple businesses, lines of impact, places where we can be generous. I would love to hear from you about your experience because you've been in it double the time I have. So,
yeah, man, it's like, it's not what you think you're going to do.
Yeah.
When you're small, you don't, play insurance salesman, you play fireman or policeman. Right.
Yeah.
So it is one of those industries that just kind of somehow finds people like ourselves, I guess, that, maybe we tried a couple different things and it just didn't deliver what we wanted it to. And so somehow some friend or some way we get introduced into the insurance business, and that knee-jerk reaction is usually that it's, I'm not sure if I want to be an insurance agent, Yep. Man, I'm so grateful and feel very fortunate to have found, or for it to have found me, however it happened, because it's such a cool space, it's the ability to control your schedule. It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. You go into any big city out there, look up who are the tallest buildings. It's usually banks and insurance companies. And if you study the banks and insurance companies, generally speaking, insurance companies have bailed the banks out during the roughest times in history.
Yep.
It's such a solid industry. I've been in it for 20 years and we've been through dips, recessions, went through 2008, started the company in 2009.
That's something just on its own to be able to say.
When times are tough, people buy insurance.
Yep.
When times are really good, people have extra money, they buy insurance.
Yeah.
And so there's always a demand for it. Now there's types of insurance that I've just never really quite connected with, which is why we don't sell them. It's not that they're not needed, but the specific world of life insurance is needed. And it doesn't take people long to have an experience in their life where they maybe have to be an executor of a state, and have to go through that process because of a parent or someone in the family dying before you realize just how important life insurance is, And so it's something that's important. It's something that's needed. I never viewed myself as a salesperson.
That's right.
But as soon as I understood what the product did for someone, I was like, I can get behind that. You know, I can lean into that. And then you start looking at the mechanics of it, and you start going, so it takes me 40 hours to get my insurance license, you know, of studying. Maybe it takes you a little bit longer. I failed my test the first time.
Yeah.
Thankfully, I went back and took it the second time because I almost didn't.
Yeah.
My first 2 years, you know, it can be a great industry. And if you're in the wrong spot, the wrong company, it's not going to be great.
Yep.
Unfortunately, there are a lot of companies out there like that where, you know, they're playing a little bit of the revolving door game where they're just hiring new agents, hoping you'll stick around for a year or two and you'll move on to something else, and they'll just make money in that revolving door. They're just trying to maintain volume. So I worked for a company like that for a couple of years where it was free leads. I was trying to, you know, basically you get what you pay for. And so I was basically taking a lead that was 2, 3, 4 years old. And this was the senior market at the time. So a lot of times I was knocking on someone's door and they just weren't there anymore.
Yeah. Well, and the best part about a senior market is when you're 20 working the senior market.
That's right. Yeah.
That's when you have the most credibility. If you're
Exactly.
between 18 and 20 and you can be knocking on the doors of 60 and 70 year olds describing to them how their Medicare is going to work.
Tricky. Yeah.
That's, you know, I had the same for me when I got into sales. I knew the deal was done when somebody would be like, you remind me exactly of my grandson. Yeah. It's like you having the young face trying to be.
You have to overcome that in some ways. And it was tricky. And, but jumping into the life insurance space and realizing that it's easy to generate leads. I shouldn't say easy. It's pretty simple. It's very predictable. If we generate X amount of leads, and put them into X amount of agents' hands, it's going to generate X amount of volume and production and therefore revenue and that kind of thing. So, but even just from a baseline, when you first get started in that world, I can invest in, you know, a certain amount of leads so that I don't have to go cold call. I don't have to kind of pound the pavement, which is what gives a lot of insurance agents or any salespeople a bad rap, is they don't have quality leads. And when you don't have a quality lead, you got to be a salesperson.
Yep.
When you have a quality lead, you can just be, you know, you can be a consultant. You can kind of really understand, listen to what someone is wanting and needing and just fill that need. And it's pretty simple. And then the insurance companies are willing to pay very good commissions. You know, average commissions for an average insurance policy with our company would range in that, you know, $600-$700 a pop range.
Yep.
And when you compare it to like trying to make a deal in real estate, how long do you have to?
3 to 6 months.
3 to 6 months.
Sales cycle.
It could fall apart at the closing table.
Yep.
You know, to make a few thousand, sometimes more, but you know, for it to be a very short sales cycle and for it to be on the back of, you know, actually talking to people who have filled out a request form, whether it be online or it was just like a no brainer. Yeah. You know, so my first year doing that, I went from 40 hours a week cold calling and hating it to the life insurance space and realizing this is it. And I remember my first year was like just a little over $100,000. I was still living in my parents' basement, no high school diploma.
Yep.
You know, and that never looked back from that point. And the thing I believe about this industry is it's the best vehicle. You know, you don't have to be passionate about selling life insurance. I think you have to have a level of passion for selling life insurance. You have to believe in the product that you're going to sell, but people get misused that they think that you have to, you know, I've got to find something I'm passionate about and do that. And if you can do that, then great.
Yeah.
But if you can't, then you got to find a vehicle that will allow you to take that and fulfill whatever those passions are. And for us, it was play, it was adventure, it was all the time, and this the stuff we wanted to do. And we just happened to find a vehicle that delivers that for us better than anything else in the industry.
That's exactly right. And because I came in and I didn't necessarily understand life insurance. I think I may have owned a policy when I came here or had owned a policy when I came here before. But coming here, one of the things that I realized is like, just see people as people. And inside of the insurance industry, we have everything in our favor. $1 trillion industry, 92 cents out of every dollar in the U.S. economy flows through it.
Yep.
But what was an aging sales force that had plenty of opportunity because so many people were retiring out of it. Ton of opportunity because of the low barrier for entry when it comes to getting your life. We have all those things going with us. And if we can take those things, which Symmetry for me provided a platform for, and we can take the right mentality and just say, hey, these people need the product I have. They care about the people in their life, and they need a way besides just a disciplined savings model, because that hasn't worked for them so far, to be able to protect their family and not leave a legacy of debt, but be able to leave a legacy of financial well-being.
That's right.
Because not only is wealth generational, but so is poverty. And we get to help them break that cycle. And when you get a hold of that, just even a little bit, it can be the seed of that. If you can't get passionate about life insurance, it means you can't get passionate about people.
Totally agree with that.
And that was all the aspects that you've given. And that was one of the things that I saw was, and I would love for you to talk about how discipline and motivation work and what you see that as, because some people can say, well, I don't want to be in the life insurance industry. I didn't see myself as that type of, I used to wear a tool belt 6-7 days a week. And now I was driving a mid-sized sedan, like, what's happened to my life? And realizing that was, changing industries can be difficult, but so can staying in the wrong one. That doesn't get you where you want to go. So I'd love to hear you just talk about, discipline and motivation and things.
I struggled with finding consistent motivation. And so very quickly I just kind of realized it's going to have to be discipline. I can control that. I can start small and I can develop habits. And pretty quickly I started to realize that I'm going to lean into these habits. And some of those, again, were like forced motivators, again, like hiring my first assistant, things that kind of backed me into a corner that made me fight of it, having a budget, for investing in my business. And the first investment I was making was leads. And so knowing that every week it was a few hundred bucks on leads that I knew it was going to be kind of autopilot. And with things like that just created these habits, these disciplines that, again, I think also can be enhanced by other disciplines in your life, health and taking care of yourself, and just understanding all of those things kind of go hand in hand, So I've always kind of felt motivation was a little overrated in a lot of ways, but just because it's not always there, But if you can create those habits and you can create discipline, then that'll stick with you.
Define the difference between those two things to you, because I think that would be helpful. Because for a lot of people, those two words, and for me, even sometimes it's hard for me to pull those apart. So when you're thinking discipline instead of motivation, can you give an example? One example that I would think of would be talking about going to the gym when you wake up. I don't think anybody wakes up with necessarily the motivation to do something hard. Yet, we get to see each other at the gym. So how would that work in that world?
For me, discipline I always kind of think about the pain of not doing it. And so discipline, I always think about, what does it do to me as a person? And what does it do to my character? What am I telling myself when I don't want to do something and I don't do it? Or when I don't want to do something, like get up and go to the gym and jump in that cold plunge, but I do it. I'm always thinking about, is this in support of me and going to strengthen my character, or is this going to weaken my character and my resolve? So that's the discipline world for me. It's just kind of, I'm always thinking about the repercussions of not doing it versus doing it. Does that make sense?
Winners focus on their reputation with themselves, and people who don't win focus too much on the reputation of other people. And hearing you say that just brought a level of clarity to that. That you like, is this going to hurt me? Is what I'm doing going to hurt?
Yeah, like, what matters.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. That's so powerful for people to hear that it is the simple things that never change. They just get better over time. The simple habits of simple disciplines.
They really do get easier.
Yeah.
They certainly get easier.
So I love this idea of you building a business for time as a response to people saying you build a business for a look, right?
Totally.
You build a business to make money and to trap yourself into needing to make more money.
Yeah.
Any of that. So
that's so big too, is, and you see that so much is, people when they're in the entrepreneurial world, they start chasing money, and that Porsche comes at a cost, and it may come at the cost of, well, now I can't actually duplicate myself. Instead of an assistant, I have a Porsche.
Yep.
And I was always wired for time. I want more time. And that meant that I had to figure out how to make a lot of money, because in order to buy my time, that meant that I needed to scale and duplicate myself. And so that was the focus. And I think that is a trap that a lot of entrepreneurs get into, is they start trying to look the part when they should be trying to scale their business. And if you're focused on time, it'll force you to scale your business. If you're focused on money, you're going to keep chasing the money, and you're going to keep chasing the Porsches and the things that look like you have money. And it may mean that you have money at some point, but don't let that stuff get in your way.
That's right. And there's so much advice about this and just presenting a look. And I think the look is important as an expression of what's actually going on. There have been times in this business where I've seen you and you were bright and full of energy, and it was a response to the market. And I've seen you other times, especially in the last few years, where it was just head down, eyes up.
Yeah.
We're getting this done. We're taking over the industry. We're doing all this, and like just really connecting with people. And I think that level of authenticity that you're talking about is incredible, because as business owners, we can focus on being good rather than sounding good.
Yeah.
We can focus on being good at our businesses rather than just trying to extract value.
Totally.
And so I think that's super key. And having that lifestyle modeled for me has been everything from a lot of different mentors, but us getting to go heli skiing together. So we just got back from Mexico. Just
we've traveled the world, man. We've gone all over the place, which is why
Ireland.
It truly is for the right people. I stand by this. I've never seen an industry like the insurance industry. It's a sleeper.
Yeah.
Like compared to anything else, real estate, anything else. I've never seen anything with the sales cycle as short as it is, with a product that really, truly, especially nowadays, sells itself in that life insurance and retirement planning, that kind of sector. It's just unbelievable. And this is a multi-trillion-dollar industry, and it's such an uncrowded space. People can control their schedule. I'm so grateful that I found it. I'm so grateful that you found it, that we found it together, because it has allowed us to do some really incredible things.
It's so incredibly true. And the difference in the people who want it, because there's a lot of people who want the results that you get, want the results that now I get as a result of hanging out with you and us doing business. And they're looking at me, they're like, how do you get those results? And I'm like, well, wanting it helps, right?
Exactly.
But that's not it's not like people who don't get it don't want it, and people who do get it do want it.
Yeah.
What do you find are those differentiators? And you had mentioned some of those before, but what are some more of those differentiators that you think, hey, people who are successful use these tools, they think like this, I
mean, I think tactically, and I see you do it, and I see a lot of entrepreneurs within our company do it. It's just, you're always looking to fire yourself. You're always looking for what's the next level up thing that I can do that will drive more revenue to the company, and how can I do more of that, which generally means I've got to replace myself with what I'm currently doing. So always looking to fire yourself. I mean, that's, and again, if you're wired for time, then that's, you're kind of naturally wanting to do that anyways, to move on to that next level up. But I think, tactically, that is a thing that I see entrepreneurs that make it work. They're figuring out how to level up, always trying to figure out how to level up. And that means you got to work on yourself, and you have to you have to grow yourself to that next position, and you have to be able to backfill that with someone. And it starts with one.
Yep.
You know, for me, it started with my sister.
Yeah.
That was my first hire. Now, obviously, I was hiring agents at that point, but once I got 4 or 5 agents, and again, most of those were my friends and family at that point, like, well, there's more work to do now. And it obviously works to recruit and to build an agency. This thing is scalable. So I've just got to figure out someone to get in the mix to help me with all the stuff that still needs to be done. It's very important stuff, but I need to backfill that. And so I hired my sister, Pam, 20 years ago, over 20 years ago. And it's been the best thing I've ever done.
From an outsider's view, for you and for her. Like that mutual value is everything.
That's the trick is you've got to, and it kind of goes back to being observant and seeing people screw up where they're trying to scale something and hire people. And they just, either they haven't developed themselves enough to retain people. So they're not treating them right, or they're not paying them right. They're not paying them for the value that they're actually bringing. I hope Pam would say, my sister would say that I always try to pay her.
We'll call her right now. Actually, we set this up. We've got a live call with Pam. Bring her in.
She'd love to be on, but she thankfully I had a good example right off the bat of what a really good hire feels like. Because that's not the norm. I think a lot of people, when they start building a business, their first hire is maybe a terrible one. It's like the law of the lid. You kind of can only attract people. And so, you end up kind of getting a bad taste in your mouth at what it feels like to start to scale something. Oh, that didn't work. Now I'm just going to go back to just me, And so I was able to hire Pam, and I saw someone that really knew what she was doing and understood the job, understood what I needed. Without me having to tell her what I needed, she understood it. And I just never looked back from there. And from there, it was always like, how do I continue to do this? How do I continue to scale that up, Because it takes good people. That's the main key to our success as a company, is we've just been able to attract and retain really good people on both sides of the equation, both in the back office and leadership out on the distribution side of things, entrepreneurial agency owners like yourself.
That it goes right back to something you told me sooner. Almost as soon as I started, you said, and I heard you say this many times, when you don't have an assistant, you are an assistant. And you have to back yourself into a corner if you want anything consistently done well. And those two principles, to me, I just saw the writing all over the wall. It's like, how am I expecting to make $50 an hour when I'm doing $15 an hour work? How am I expected to make $150 an hour if I'm doing $50 an hour work? And I didn't see that when I was doing that work, when that really needed to be somebody else's work, how I was just giving the difference away. And that difference was what I was looking for, but I was just giving it away. And so I couldn't find it.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I remember too, before I hired Pam, I struggled with kind of that discipline and that motivation kind of component, because again, I came from being a plumber's assistant, making $6 an hour, working 30, 40 hours a week, clock in, clock out, getting my paycheck on Friday, to now, here's some leads, go get them. Control your schedule. You're self-employed now. I struggled with that, and I would go out and I would sell a lot. I would make a couple $1,000s in a week, and then I would chill out. And I would let my bank account dictate my activity level. And when I started realizing that, well, now I got Pam, and I have someone else to take care of outside of myself, and I have a payroll to make. It, like you just said, it kind of backs you in a healthy way. It backs you into a corner to understand that, okay, I just got to keep being disciplined here, and I got to keep creating habits along the way. And I was forced to do it because I backed myself into a corner. Sometimes you got to get a little uncomfortable, for you to fight out of it and learn those habits. And that's what I did.
So hypothetically, right? If you went to therapy to fix your consistency problem, or you did what you did, right? Which is hired somebody. What do you think the difference would be in your life right now? because I think therapy has a big place, right? But we have to create this, that's something that I've done a lot of work in that arena. I think it's one of the necessary tools, but I think sometimes people, when that's the only tool when all you have is a screwdriver, or when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Yeah. I'm a former carpenter and I can't get that right. But
it's been a while. Right?
It's been a minute since I swung that hammer. The phone is a lot lighter than the hammer.
It is, really is.
But
who knows how it, I just didn't have the even wherewithal to think about that at the time. It was just, back yourself into a corner and see what happens,
I think being that person who puts themselves in a place of greater need, because at the end of the day, when we ask people what they truly want, not what they need right now, but what they truly want, they want to be people who make a difference for others. They want to be people of impact.
That's right.
But if we don't take the risk of putting ourselves in a corner and having somebody else be dependent on us in some way, shape, or form, we don't get the reward of impact. And that to me just continues, because it goes from 1 to 2 to how many executive team members?
Well over 200 now in the corporate office.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
And so many good hires. Once you get your first one, like, it's easy to spot the next good one. Mm-hmm. I have also learned that when you're hiring, because it is such an important component, is how do you attract the right people? How do you put the right people in the right seats and make sure that they get it, and they want it. Mm-hmm. We call it GWC, get it, want it,
capacity
to do it. The worst hires you can have are the mediocre ones.
I'll talk about that. Let's go.
Because bad hires, right off the bat, it's a bad hire.
Yep.
You within a week or two, generally, well, they nailed the interview. Mediocre, that's a little trickier to sniff out. And you also naturally, you have to have the quality where you give people a chance, and you work with them and you try to kind of elevate them if you can. But sometimes those mediocre people can kind of hang around.
Yeah.
And you've got to figure out a system and a process, a way to kind of identify that quicker and get them out. But
likable, just not effective.
It's such an art.
I totally, hiring and firing for me.
Yeah.
Because I've had Delaney welfare program where I had a bunch of people who were extremely likable, just not effective. And they and the companies they went to would have been better served with me releasing them sooner, rather than trying to turn them into someone they weren't not accepting them until they were.
Yes.
And that's it. It's a strange thing, because I think I've got this quality of like, oh, well, I want to be loyal, but loyal to what? Loyal to how this person is showing up now, or loyal to the possibility and the potential that I've got to release. Yeah. And that's something that I've seen you guys get better at over time, and just a place for growth that has huge opportunities for me as well.
Thank you, man. You have to, you really do have to just have that kind of care in your heart for people. Mm-hmm. And when you do have a hire that's just in the wrong spot, or maybe there's not a spot for them, it's not the best thing for them either. Like, they're not going to be happy here. They're not they're not getting what they want either, because they know that they're not adding the value that they should be. The company knows it. And so the kindest thing, the most loving thing you can do in that situation is actually make a move, but that's tricky to do.
It is. That's one of those things looking back. It's like, why did I hold on to it? Because it's not like it typically gets better, right?
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
Turn into a little bit of a different aspect, and a place that I've gotten to know you a little bit better is just in health, fitness, the way you take care of yourself. Early on when I knew you, one of the most intense people when it comes to exercise, when it comes to competition. You will very rarely let people see it, but there's an intense competition that's going on beside Casey, whether he wants to let you know that or not.
It's competitive. I'm competitive. Yeah. That's funny.
And it pushes me too, right? It pushes me. But I've watched that change for you over
You knew a bunch of competitive salespeople in the same place.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. You get too many of us in the gym, we'll burn it down. That's why Corey has the metal building.
That's right. That's right.
Talk about, for me, my focus has really just shifted from one of full intensity with no focus on longevity to one of knowing the appropriate places for the focus on intensity and longevity.
Yeah.
Can you talk about your journey with your health and just taking care of yourself so that you're doing this for a long time?
Yeah, for sure. Again, kind of going back to negative role models, like the company that I came from before this, when we started this company, I was used to a culture where there was really no talk at all about the role that health plays in your energy output. It was just work. And so I was in my 20s, and kind of metabolism starts to slow down. I'm 5'6", and so I should be like 130, 140, 130, 140 pounds, probably about the average body weight for someone my size. And I just let myself get out of balance, and not blaming it on anyone. That was kind of just being part of that world. And metabolism starts to slow down, and I started to pack on some pounds. It's easy to do, especially in the sales world too, where you're out in the field, and you're, at that time we weren't virtual, we were selling face to face. And so, I'm helping clients, but I'm, eating at Chick-fil-A and Wendy's every day,
Yeah. And getting Mountain Dew and
little
just candy cakes or little Debbie's from that.
Taking care of my, eating in the hole, they're feeding me too. I just had a Wendy's cheeseburger. Now I'm eating something else,
Yep.
And, I got up to like a little over 180 pounds. And started to also feel, like how that affected my energy, and how that affected a lot of things. And so, when we started this company, we kind of shifted that again. We said, we don't want that culture. We actually want a very balanced, like, focus on the important things, the important buckets in your life. And so was able to kind of get serious about that. I got a bike, I'd always loved mountain biking and dirt biking and stuff like that. So I actually got a road bike, and started to road bike a little bit, started to see the pounds melt off as I started to focus on it, and started to see a direct correlation with that and the energy that I had in how I showed up at work, how I showed up in my marriage, how I showed up with everyone that I loved. I just had more energy. And so I've been hooked on it ever since. And about 3 or 4 years ago, I haven't talked about this a lot, but I actually had been dealing with a lot of inflammation I started in my left knee, and I chalked it up to tendonitis because I'd started bike race. I'd started doing some racing and stuff on the bike, and chalked it up to just like what they call spring knee, which is too much too soon. You start ramping up your training too much. And, took some time off just trying to heal that. It never healed. The right knee, 6-8 months later, started feeling the same way. My joints started really seizing up over the last, 5, 6, 7 years. And saw a ton of doctors trying to figure out, do I have some sort of autoimmune something that's causing this inflammation? Took a bunch of tests. Finally, like 8-10 months ago, I took a Lyme's test. Doctor had me take a Lyme's test, and sure enough, 2 or 3 strands of Lyme's came back in my blood. So I have an even deeper respect and understanding about how important health is, because before you ever have anything like that, you don't know where to place health a lot of times, right? You just don't know.
Yeah, it's so true.
But And Lyme's is nowhere near what so many other people have to deal with from a health standpoint. It's something that has reminded me of how important that health bucket is in your life, and that, relationships, money, fun, spirituality, everything else, like you would give it all up for health.
Yeah. Right.
Because it's so important. And so obviously it's important in the business world, entrepreneurial front, but it's played a big role in my life. And I'm grateful that I did have something that kind of pushed me a little bit to pay more attention to it, get focused on it. I felt like maybe I just over the years gotten a little bit comfortable, and even though I was pushing myself, I was still kind of comfortable, which is why introducing like hot and cold into my life has been really good every morning. At the gym.
Yeah, Corey's got
the hot box, the sauna.
It's a single person that we sometimes stuff two people in, temporarily.
Sitting there, and you see all this stuff on social now about the science behind sitting in heat.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing that now for a little more than a year, and I feel so much better. Same thing with the cold. So I jump in 170. 180, for 20 minutes a day. And then I jump in that cold bath for, 2 or 3 minutes, as long as I can stand it.
Yeah.
And I just love starting my day off like that too. Because I know it's good for me and I know I feel better. It helps with the inflammation. But I also love that, just like, man, that's going to be probably the hardest thing I have to do today.
It turns
down
I start
my day like that, man. It's just like feels a little easier as I go,
Yeah, I
long answer to simple question.
No, I think it's all important, and I think that more and more people, the collective consciousness of people is coming around to say, hey, if I do hard stuff, I'm less worried when hard stuff happens to me. If I initiate it, it's going to be easier when I receive it.
Yeah.
And just I see you in there getting after it, being willing to just sit down in that cold water, and I have a lot of the same impact. It just like turns the volume down, and it's something that I do also for the way that I feel and think as soon as I get out of that, because man, any anxieties, any busyness in my mind, it just all melts,
goes away. Yeah, literally either melts or freezes.
Yeah, melts or freezes. I never even thought about that. That could actually be what's happening.
Might be what's happening.
Yeah.
Not a scientist, but
yeah. I want to talk to you about something that I've seen you uniquely do well and just set this up. Not only you personally doing this well, but creating this culture. And we have with Quility, there's a core value of we have fun and we get stuff done. But you seem to take that just a little bit further. And I know the reasons now. I didn't know in the beginning, but you say build a business you love. Build a business that you enjoy. Build a business that you have a good time doing.
Yeah.
Talk about, when we went to the Whitewater Center and we were doing rodeo rafting and getting bucked out of there. And just like, I broke my big toe that day. I didn't even know it when I did it. But, 3 months later, I realized that, it was just like all this, we call it fear bonding.
That's right.
So
we've done a lot of that together, man.
Yeah. Let's talk about how you see the direct impact in your business and relationships when it and in your life, because you're not like building a business over here and a life over here. You're kind of mixing these two things up. Why is that important to you?
Yeah, man. That's good. That's I don't know. Maybe it's just how I was always wired to. I'm always seeking fun. It's always, I think it's an important thing that a lot of people maybe have just kind of, you get into the world of work and business and you just kind of sometimes leave that stuff behind. And I view it as the other way around. Like those are the things that I want to do. Mm-hmm. And so I got to figure out how to create a life like that, and so it's always been a big driving force. We've heli-skied together, we've rodeo rafted together, we've mountain biked, we've done trips all over the world. And one of the most dangerous things you and I have probably done together, which I'm not saying danger is always a component, but it helps.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
a little endorphin rush, Oh, yeah. But what do you think the most dangerous thing we've ever done together is?
See, when you originally called me about heli skiing, I thought that was going to be it.
Yeah,
because I was like,
I think we had already done the most dangerous thing before heli skiing, but Do you remember what it was?
I don't know, but I know I wasn't qualified to do it because every time I get a call from you, it's like, hey, you want to go out on a mountain bike? I'm like, I don't have a mountain bike, but I'll figure it out. And I buy your brother's mountain bike and then ride with you guys for the first time. I'm like, this is like senior year and I belong in kindergarten. Do you have the kindergarten mountain biking? But yeah, what do you think it was? I would love to hear it.
It was in the Dominican Republic, and we were on an advisory board retreat. Early in the years of shaping the company.
Oh, yes.
And you and I took the paddle boards out to a reef break that looked like a mile out in the ocean. And it might have been.
May have been.
No helmets, no life vests, nothing, just paddling out to that reef break and catching waves out there, which we probably had no business catching at that point.
I know I did.
Easily crashed into a reef and been in serious trouble. People think Ellis skiing was dangerous. No, the paddle boarding and wherever that was
the Dominican. That was such a great time, and I remember us being there, and it kind of relates back to what you said about building a business for time rather than money. It's like you'll invest the thing that you're willing to trade in order to get what you want.
Yeah.
And so like, we're willing to invest in a little bit of risk to have a lot more fun, you know?
Yeah, totally.
But I remember about that trip, it was one of my first times on an advisory board trip. I think it was my second one. And you and I were both in the same position. We were like, yeah. Okay. Well, let's wrap this up so we can go out there. And I think to me, that told me I'm with the right people in the right place, because no matter how much money I make, I can't buy this.
Yes.
I have to experience this.
It's the experience, man. Yeah. And that's how I'm wired. And I think everyone's got it in them a little bit, but they just haven't tapped into it. And I've always been passionate about just having experiences with people, especially if they haven't had an experience like that, like heli skiing. I had never experienced that either, but I knew that, like, hey, this is gonna be something that we'll take to our graves. Yeah. And so for me, like, a lot of the fun and stuff, that I think the wiring just comes from knowing that these are the things that matter. You know, these memories that we create on these adventures, these are the things that we're going to carry with us for the rest of our lives. And I'll never forget the time that I've spent with you and so many other people in our company, just playing, you know, and just having a really good time. It's like all the money we've made, all the things the thing that's going to last is those memories and those experiences, you know, and the relationships and the friendships that we've built along the way. Yeah. That's what matters.
It does. And I think that a lot of leaders have it backwards, and they think that the value is what's going to bring the relationship. Yeah. And something that I know, because you demonstrated this, is a relationship is what actually brings the value. Yeah. And the experiences, like you said, they'll last a lifetime. Yep. And we don't know how far when we retire, you've been a big part of getting that. Let's defer gratification on the money side so we can buy leverage, get more of the time, have more of these experiences, and get tied together so that when there are hard times we have to face, we can face them together. Yes. Because we've been through hard things together. That's right. And I want to thank you for being the leader who you are and having the impact on me. And it's been a great ride. And I also know it's just the beginning. So it's awesome, man. Thanks for being a guest. And thank you for having me. It means a lot to even be invited on this thing. So thank you very much, buddy. Awesome. Yeah. Appreciate it, man. Yeah. Have a good one. Awesome. Thank you all for joining our conversations. We're developing this platform for simple, profound tools and techniques that can help you get the best out of your life, and more importantly, unlock potential. You can find me across all social platforms at The Brian Delaney, and online, come visit us at thebriandelaney.com.